57.2 million on average watched the game, with a peak over 61 million during the 7:45 to 8 p.m. quarter hour. Incredible. Now, part of that is because Nielsen has this new way to calculate out-of-home viewing, and you're probably going to have a lot more out-of-home viewing on Thanksgiving. So whatever magic wand they wave, and they call it Big Data Plus Panel. I still think they need a better name for that. But the numbers can't get much better. 57-2. And the Lions game, hosting the Packers earlier that day, that broke the prior record by more than 5 million. They had 47-4, I believe. 47-7 may have been the number. Either way, the record had been all-time for any regular season game, 42-1, set 3 years ago by the Giants and the Cowboys in that Thanksgiving window, 4:30 p.m. Eastern. So business is booming for the National Football League. And that leads to the first question that we're going to answer from the mailbag from RDW. Will Dallas at Detroit tonight be Amazon's most watched Thursday night football game ever? The record is 17.76 million from Commanders-Packers week 2 of this year. I think it will. You've got the Cowboys. You've got the Lions, two teams right now that tend to attract a lot of eyeballs. Both teams fighting for their playoff lives. The Cowboys trying to take this 3-game winning streak that they have put together beginning when they came out of their bye week. They've beaten the Raiders, they've beaten the Eagles, they've beaten the Chiefs, they beat the 2 Super Bowl teams 4 days apart. You got the Lions kind of hanging on. Yeah, I think it'll go over 20. I really do. I think it's a big game tonight. I've been excited about this game all week, and not just because the Cowboys. Sorry, Vikings. You've earned it. Cowboys are my new favorite team. So I say that only partially in jest, but I've been looking forward to this game. It's going to be a fun game to watch. I think it will do a really big number. Okay, Tom Marshall, our good friend from the UK. Who are the Lions missing the most, Ben Johnson or Aaron Glenn? I think they're clearly missing Ben Johnson the most, clearly. I've mentioned this before. There's a former head coach who I will hear from time to time, unsolicited, singing the praises of Ben Johnson. Doesn't even personally know Ben Johnson, but from afar, a major fan, believes he's the best play designer and play caller in the NFL by far, and has told me, and I kind of wish I would have co-opted that take before it all played out. Mark my words, the Lions are going to miss Ben Johnson. And here we are. Dan Campbell's taken over the play calling duties. It really hasn't gone all that well. They go for it on fourth down far too often. They're far too predictable when it comes to fourth down. So I think they clearly miss Ben Johnson more than they miss Aaron Glenn. Next question, real Aaron Ellis. Since ownership was patient with Dan Campbell in year 1 and was rewarded, will Campbell be patient with his coordinators if the Lions ultimately miss the playoffs? And the patience of ownership extended into year 2. And we got to the point in year 2 where the primary owner of the team, Sheila Ford Hamp, issued the dreaded vote of confidence for Dan Campbell. But something after that woke up. That's when it all started to move in the right direction. Then we had the great 23 season that finished on the brink of the Super Bowl. Last year, number 1 seed, lost at home in the divisional round. This year, I think Dan Campbell is loyal enough that he's going to keep it going. But remember, he moved on from Anthony Lynn as the offensive coordinator and went with Ben Johnson. It all depends on whether or not Campbell thinks there's someone else on the staff that could be pulled into a coordinator job and thrive like Ben Johnson did and Aaron Glenn did. But we'll see how that plays out. Atheists ponder, if Dak plays well and the Cowboys win, is he going to be considered for MVP? MVP consideration isn't just some quick thing that bubbles up. And we talk about it and people bet on it. I still don't know why they do. But it's a storyline, from about week 4 onward. The reality is, when the regular season ends, the 50 voters, of which Chris and I are one, not one together, but we each have a vote. By Wednesday, the ballots have to be provided. So a lot of these answers become clear when we see the final playoff tree, when we see the final standings, when we see the rankings of the performance, when we've got that memory of watching a bunch of games and who stood out and who really deserves it. If the Cowboys win the division, Dak Prescott becomes a more viable candidate for MVP. If they would somehow win out and go 11-5-1 and be the 2 seed in the NFC, that's going to take a lot of things to happen, but it all depends upon how they finish. And also where Dak finishes in, and just, they've had big games and, the momentum. If they cap this streak with 5 more wins, here's how it goes. Every award has 5 now. Used to be 1 and only 1 vote for each award. You get 5. So, Drake May 1, Matthew Stafford 2, or Matthew Stafford 2, Drake May 1. Who's number 3? Dak Prescott. And don't rule out Jordan Love. If the Packers win on Sunday, if the Packers end up the 1 seed in the NFC, Jordan Love becomes a very viable MVP candidate. Right now, the odds are focused on May and Stafford. That's all subject to change. That's driven by betting trends. And if the Packers win and they take over first place in the NFC North, you're going to see the odds move down for Jordan Love. All right, let's answer another question or two. Still waiting for Tom Curran to log in. He's officially tardy. Tom. Come on, Tom. Let's go, Tom. One more. Mountain Moon. Did GM Jerry actually make wise decisions by trading Micah Parsons and obtaining the defensive pieces he did? Does making the playoffs justify his moves? I still think it was idiotic to trade Micah Parsons. You've got a chess piece that requires 2 other chess pieces to hold in check. You've got a guy that the opposing offense needs to know where he is on every single play. And they took some of what they got, and they got Quinnen Williams with it. But I don't think that makes up for moving on from Micah Parsons. Now, when you consider that the relationship with Micah Parsons had become broken beyond repair, then you have to make a good decision. It's Jerry's fault, at least partially. It's possible both sides are to blame, but regardless, when you get to the point where the relationship is broken, what are you going to do? I mean, that's why they ultimately decided to trade him. They knew he was committed to this idea that a back injury was going to keep him from practicing or playing. So they were going to pay him 20, 21, 22, whatever it was, low 20 millions this year to maybe not play the whole season. And then what do? Franchise tag him? Do you trade him then? What do you do? So they traded him at a time where they were backed into a corner. And I think if they had known back in March they were going to have to do this, they would have traded him then. They made the best decision they could under a bad set of circumstances. And that's why Parsons isn't there. And it's working out so far for both teams. But the Cowboys, look, they still have to keep winning. They lose one more game and they be done. That tie may be the thing that keeps them out by a half game. Because 10-6-1? 10-6-1. Anyone who's 11-7 or better is going to knock you out without a tiebreaker having to be applied, thanks to the tie from Week 4 with the Packers. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.